I know they asked mostly advice for you, so I will be focusing on that. I will definitely be trying to give Boomer their own advice as well. So we'll see what's up. Outside of that, did they ask for anything else? Focus specifically on the Val and then help with friend. Yeah. Hope this helps. If you have questions at any time, I'll like if you're not understanding how I'm explaining something, etc. Just let me know. I'll gladly readdress anything. And if you find the need to rewatch this later and think I missed something or want another explanation, ping me and I'll just address it in the Get Great server. Yeah, that's.
This may sting a bit.
This is supposed to be a learning resource, so if y'all aren't learning, I'm not doing my job. On that note, yeah, this is a greedy round start, and you're getting punished for it. No combo, unfortunately, but could have been worse. Yeah, going for vials in neutral, if you're not fully expecting them to be lame, is pretty sketchy. You almost always people are going for vials mid-route, usually with the help of an assist of some kind. And then, or after they've killed a character and they're buying time for incoming. Oh, push block. We're not familiar with the confirms off of that. Fair enough. Get push block. Oh. I just got that by the crest, so okay. Oh. Not avoiding the shot. Get thrown. Okay. A little bit of combo unfamiliarity. Yeah. Oh, yeah. When the parasol isn't point, you always need to worry about the tier even after you get the hit.
Time for your physical.
Yeah, so the tier only goes away if the parasol gets hit. So if you can hit the para assist, the tier will actually go away. But if you hit the point but not the parasol, the tier will stay. So it's an important thing of note when dealing with any of the shot assists. So like, if we go back to here, the shot came out, but it disappeared immediately because the parasol got hit. I'm also now realizing we're playing mirroring teams. So thankfully this ended up being pretty good advice for both of you no matter who I address. Alright. We're playing Val neutral. This can kind of be as lame as you want to make it. Oh no, that is not what we wanted. Oh. So far, It seems like you kind of understand basics of parazoning. Make them want to go someplace and then cut it off with a shot. Don't necessarily know how much I agree with the running it forward when you have them boxed into the corner and already stuck in your trap. But this is the thing I was trying to find. Going for shots when they're already in the air is dangerous. I understand this was more than likely an autopilot. The problem is this was more than likely an autopilot. I do this to myself, and it gets me in trouble. I know players better than me, like LD, do this as well. This is a really sketchy place to do a shot for this specific reason. Anyone with a far-reaching air button or extra air mobility, more often than not, can avoid the tier and hit you for it. So understanding when you need to override your autopilot when it comes to shots is quite important. And so even if they're in this space, half the time I'm like, oh yeah, definitely, I can get an M shot here. They dead zone M shot with this air dash as well. So this is a spot where instead of looking for shooting, you are backdashing away, just like disengaging and getting yourself in a better range. You can dash jump forward and press a button and try and contest them doing something like this. Although sometimes you might lose doing that. You can be like me and a little bit more crazy and hold your ground and contest their approach that way. So, for instance, here is a place where I'd be looking for stand heavy punch, but this is a very predictive tool and something I use a lot more than other parasols. Or you could just pillar here if you think they're going to air dash onto you with a button. So, like, those are a couple different options. You can also opt to dash forward and try and cross them up, like try and get under their button and jab them for it. But you have a lot of options. Shots tend to be some of the worst ones. Forward jump light punch. Get the shot off. Oh. Caught trying to push block. Good blocks. Good push block. Oh. You might have been able to just jab here. Yeah. But this is getting a little bit more into thinking about higher levels of defense and offense, so I'm not gonna get super into that. Oh, okay. Yeah. I would definitely, because of how much block stun jump heavy punch has, that's usually something I'm always looking to push block. But yeah. If you're not comfortable push blocking that early yet, I think we should be thinking about push blocking a little bit earlier in general. Obviously there are a lot of oh, we didn't expect that to work. Yeah, that will work. There are a lot of intricacies to why you should and shouldn't push block at given times, but general, like, overly simplified, broad rule of thumb is kind of looking to push block around like the second and fourth hit. The earlier, typically the better, but if you try and go too early, you start getting predictive and you can get baited for it, yada yada yada. Try to aim for push blocking on like the second or third button, usually. If it's a multi-hit, be careful, because if you push block in the middle of the multi-hit, more often than not, they will just stick on you. And sometimes that's what you want, and you try and push block guard cancel, but I don't think y'all necessarily are caring about that just yet, so general rule, you kind of just want them off you. Try and do it by the second or third button press. It's a good solid habit to get into right off the gate. Or right off the bat, out of the gate, whatever you want to call it. Oops. Oh, what? Valentine, please. Block this, punish it. Oh, unfortunate drop. Mix, block it, air dash over. Okay, good movement. So, funny thing about the Annie mirror, she has some of the best tools to deal with her own garbage. If you see them going for this... Oh no. So Pillar of Creation is a guaranteed hit, but you might not get a conversion because of Crescent. Stinger, I think, will likely work here, and they can't react with their own Stinger because of how much hit stop your Stinger will have. Spending bar for a little bit of damage, you unfortunately don't get a combo afterwards. Yeah, depending on when you hit them in the animation, Pillar of Creation will give you a punish or not, but I think reacting quick enough with Pillar of Creation to make sure it hits them before the Crescent comes out is going to be pretty hard. That's a silly interaction. I'm curious. Are these stand heavy kicks intentional, or are you missing some special inputs? Because it's kind of an awkward button for her to be using a neutral. Okay. Yeah. Vial plus DP assist is probably going to be a much safer way to do it at round start. Actually, I want to head back to it. Yeah, I don't think you lose to dash up throw, so it's probably not a bad option. I'm trying to think of what they can do to beat it. They might have options, but I don't think they're great, at least for the Valentine mirror, so you're probably more or less fine doing this. And then for you, Warrior, honestly, if you really expect them to do this, I think one of the funny things you can do is just mirror them. Also, just get a Vial at round start. But that's a pretty hard call out. Obviously, you can also do it with your DP assist, so you can both kind of just watch your Annies hit each other. Unfortunate drop. Para tag, it can be a kind of gimmicky reversal, but more often than not, you're just going to lose the Parasol for it, so be careful about going for it. Understand the risks and accept them, if that's the choice you choose to make. Okay, yep, so... Thing about Parasol, this has a lot of hit stun. And this is a scenario you'll see a lot. I'm not saying get this down immediately, I want to talk through this so you have it in your head as, like, I know what to do. So once you start feeling more comfortable with your inputs and everything, you can kind of just be there. Off of this, you have enough time to land, actually dash forward, and still get the crouching light. So this keeps them a lot closer. Which then lets you go into a launcher route, which allows you to get more damage on both of them. Also, just this is an unfortunate spacing where Elf Shot likely won't combo. It hits the assist, so either way it breaks. The different things to be doing here. So obviously if you don't get the dash forward and things aren't spaced nicely, my recommendation would honestly just be Stun Heavy Punch X2 level 3. It should keep them both in. You egret cancel, you dash after them, you get the corner carry and the damage onto both characters, and then you pick up with Light Kick and go into a launcher route after that. Another option you have is to do this. You have two options after this if you're not going to do the level 3. You can do Sniper, it will not hit both. It will only hit the point character, the assist will get away. If you are close enough to do Quake, so if you do charge motion, so down, up, and medium kick, I think this is a good enough spacing for it to hit. It might whiff if they're far enough away. But if you do that in the sniper should hit both of them, and then you get to OTG both with Light Kick again. So those are a couple of different options you have in this. And again, it's not, I expect you to have all these down pat, just letting you know what the options are so you kind of understand what to be playing around with next time. That's just an unfortunate misinput. You might have been able to level 3, but I doubt it. I think it just has enough hit stop. Grippy. That I don't want to say it shouldn't have worked, but it was a little bit silly. So the funny thing is here, you don't really need to be the one approaching. That works. I would honestly, in these scenarios, recommend you play the spacing game. You can opt to hold your ground. You can also opt to be really lame and just retreat and throw projectiles along the way. Going forward can work, and as we saw, it did work, but it's probably the riskiest strategy. I personally would recommend just sitting outside the range of their normals, force them to approach you, and either outspace them or like check them with projectiles, so with your crescents, because it's obnoxious to deal with them, etc., etc. Boxing people into the corner is terrifying in this game. Okay, we've got Val neutral. And especially because you have characters like Parasol or Annie, who have far-reaching buttons that cover a lot of space, who can also check people like approaching them in the air. So it's a pretty strong gameplay. Alright, they just take Theoki. Yeah. I think we gotta get a little bit more comfy with push blocking. There's definitely times where we could get them off of us earlier and it would make life a lot bit easier. Right. Now for... How did we fight our way out of this corner as Boomer? Running forward, trying to use the assist, space jump heavy kick, air dash jump heavy punch. Ran forward pretty aggressively the majority of the time, but... Oh no. A little bit of funny interaction, yeah. Phew, oh. When I say holding your ground and using Stun Heavy Punch, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This makes me really happy to see. I'm not gonna say keep doing it. It's definitely risky, but this is how I like to play the game. This button is really fun when it works your way. Obviously here you still need to worry about the L shot or the tier that's sitting right there. Yeah, if you think they're gonna be coming at you, especially above your head, Stun Heavy Punch is a really good tool. And the risks are reduced because you have L shot to special cancel out of. Again, if they're above your head, that won't necessarily work, but you can always play the am I gonna pillar after this or not game. I love this tool. It's something I really enjoy using. It's a big button, and it's really satisfying to hit people with it. Oh. So, funnily enough, unless the frame data is different from cross, I can check this right now while I'm talking about it, but unless the frame data is different from cross, this is actually incredibly unsafe on block. And so you can actually get a punish on this. Either way, you should be really wanting to press a button. But I will go check the speckles to see if this has different frame data. Okay, so the shot has different frame data. It's not unsafe on block, but it's still -3. So you don't need to respect anything after this. Obviously, they can do, or not obviously, but like they have the option to choose like counter or something after this, but that is psychopath behavior. So I say don't respect it until they show you're willing to do it. It's your turn. Just press jab. Your jab is slower than hers, but not -3 slower, so you will still win if they press anything. So they kind of just need to hold that. And if they do it with cross, it's a counter hit. You are jabbing there 100% of the time. Well, DP. Honestly, I probably would have said just do beam here. Try and get a little bit more damage, but it's not that big a deal. Unfortunate. This won't chip out. I can respect it. Thought they were gonna land with a button, they didn't. Sometimes you just guess wrong. It is what it is.
Time for your physical.
I think I'll spend a couple games just trying to focus on the head boomer Val. Going back to but before I commit to that, I want to go back to the point I talked about earlier. This is the only round start they've ever done in front of you, at least for this set. Based on that, I would definitely recommend tailoring a game plan. So if you know they're consistently going to do this, what are your options? So one of your options is to do the exact mirror. Just do the exact same thing. Another option is to do what you did round one, because I think if you like bypass here, I'm pretty sure you still catch her. You might not, it depends, that might be something to check in the lab, but figuring out a way to bypass that avoids Annie and still hits her might just be your way in on the Val. On that note, Head Boomer, it's a greedy round start that can be punished. This matchup, it might not be as easily punished, but I definitely think about other round starts, because people might also just be able to chicken block the Annie and get a happy birthday. So things to think about. Obviously, Valentine up back round start was phenomenal and leads into a ton of different options, and that's one you can kind of just have a flow chart out of if you really want to, and have that be your default round start. But yeah, would avoid being that predictable. Yeah, not respecting the tier, first drop. I see we are doing a lot of air dash, jump, medium puncher, heavy punch from mid range. Not necessarily awful. I would recommend mixing that up with just like neutral hop and then go from there. And so you can neutral hop and then do a double jump, preferably a little bit delayed after you see what they're doing, get a toss out. You can neutral hop, air dash backwards, and try and see what they're responding to. You can also just run at them. Val has a pretty fast ground dash. You can just run at them and look for a throw or a low. Really depends on what your opponent is showing they're willing to answer with, but you have more options than just IADing at their face. Because sometimes going and swinging will get you killed. That is a really funny interaction. Oh, you were already in the... Oh, no, you weren't already in the air. Yeah, your pickup here is just to keep dashing, Warrior. You just keep on ground dashing, and then safest pickup is just 5 light kick times 2. Unfortunate. Got caught by that, yeah. Much the same side mids. One for a tech throw is a little bit slow, kind of awkward. What a jab. Yeah, just dead. Sped up through that. Whoops, getting a little bit sleepy, so not quite on top of things. Oh wait, I'm just checking how many. Yeah, I know y'all sent in 20 replays. I don't know if I'll get through them all.
Sorry, I'm out of lollipops.
We'll see where I end up stopping, because I'll probably stop once I feel like I'm repeating myself. Yeah. Unfortunately, that didn't beat the round start, but again, it was the exact same round start from Boomer. Messed up the mix a little bit, dashed into the DP. Have we already seen this game? No, okay, that was a different Oki, I think. Didn't quite get the pickup. Oh, that's a punish. No, we're up backing, but I'm pretty sure you can... I think you can just stand heavy punch here? Because I'm pretty sure she's in a counter hit state all the way down. I don't know why I'm all of a sudden doubting myself, but... pretty certain that's true. Obviously, I don't really need to tell you, Head Boomer, that throwing away the vial in neutral isn't really great. But that was probably just a misinput. Held P for slightly too long. What was this? We didn't believe in our hits is what that was. Once again, we're just kind of air dashing forward, sometimes up back air dashing forward. Unfortunate. Yeah. Still a little bit of combo unfamiliarity. Get thrown because we didn't push block there. Although, I mean, they still can throw afterwards, they just have to delay it properly. I don't know what you're trying to do on this incoming, but I don't think this is ever it. Did you want to assist with that? Either way, I just go for strike throw mix on oncoming more often than not. So, for you, Warrior, and this is also to chastise you, Boomer, H-shot should not be your default in zoning. It has a lot of recovery. This is the thing you try every once in a while to catch them off guard. If you do this consistently, if they're on it, they can super you. and this is specific for the Annie matchup, other characters have some other options as well, but most of the time it's a full screen super. Annie can stinger you, you can't recover in time, you can't react in time. Pillar of Creation is a guaranteed hit, and honestly combo, because of your tears will go away. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. Yeah. So you're not allowed to do this, Boomer, and Warrior, don't let them do this. H-Shot is a sparing tool. Or a tool to be used sparingly, is probably the better way to say it, compared to L-Shot. L-Shot usually recovers in time, although you still can get caught by Annie, because Annie supers are pretty quick. H-Shot is almost universally a no-go. The baseline of your zoning should be L-Shot, a little bit of M-Shot if you notice how jumpy they are. Very, very little H-Shot. Just because of how much recovery H-Shot has. It's insane. Oh, they went for a different run start, and you actually did theirs and won. That's hilarious. Shit. Yep, accidentally throwing away the cross or the vial. Oh, no, wrong air dash. Dash up thriller, usual. We're pressing into L-Shot. Kill. Two OP. Alright. What do we have for round start today? Oh. Push block was a little bit... no, I'm holding myself to my standards. The push block was good. That was very solid. And it also got them off of you. Exactly what you wanted it to do. Oh, I had meant to bring this up earlier. This is for both you Val players. Y'all really like using your double jump up immediately. Sometimes it's the right thing to do. Sometimes it's not. So I would discourage this be your default habit, because having your air mobility as a reactive tool is very strong. It's also important as a defensive tool. I'm not gonna... This game is coded so that you only get your double jump back if you jump. So if you use your double jump in the air, and then if you get hit any time before the next time you jump, you don't have your double jump to get out of mix. And a lot of cross-under mix can just lose to double jump. So understanding that it's important to hold it is quite good. And then also just having an extra tool for mobility and neutral can sometimes win you an interaction. So highly recommend doing super jump and using something to stall your air time rather than immediately use up your double jumps and air dashes. Again, it won't always be the best choice. Sometimes you do need to immediately change direction or immediately air dash. But my general rule of thumb is to try and limit the use of my tools until I need them. Okay.
Tisk, tisk. It looks like we'll have to operate.
Who will our star be tonight? Let's rock!
Again, we're really liking the air dashes. Good push block. Good jump like punch though. I think we gotta delay the air dash a little bit for that incoming. We didn't have enough height. Good pickup. Skills, okay. Jump heavy punch cross ups. Or a struggle to deal with. I feel it. I know you have a combo that kills the boomer. I don't know what you're doing resetting an extra time.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Sorry, I'm out of lollipops.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime!
We gotta push block. Okay, that was a whole lot of holding everything without push blocking at all. It's a whole lot of air dashing from you, Boomer. I think you can definitely afford to play the spacing boxing game. I'm not entirely sure how aggressive you want your Val to be. You don't end up going for any raw bypasses all that much, which means you're not as bad as like Gray or BVP when it comes to... Well, not bad, but you're not as far on the aggression spectrum as those two. But we are kind of just moving forward with a lot of overheads, and it feels like it can kind of start getting blocked and picked apart pretty easily. cheeky little throw. It's the mix. Not believing in our hits.
Tell me where it hurts.
Oh, no DHC. Okay. Oh, that works too. Okay. Take back what I said about raw bypasses. You just proved me wrong. So, for Valentine, I'll go into the... Actually, honestly, I'll just do it now. Okay, so we're at 8:13. I think we're about halfway through the replays. I'll go through this now. There's a couple different ways, and obviously a lot of it changes depending on the situation. But I can tell you for Parasol, I know a couple. I have some ideas for Valentine, but we'll see.
Time to operate.
If it's my brain is short-circuited. If it's the raw bypasses, I mean the biggest thing to do is one, not be predictable, and so that again goes down to like your shot habits. What some Valentines will look to do is just know when you're trying to shoot, be in the air and bypass you for doing this, and they kind of just get in. But if we're talking about I should grab my controller for this. If we're talking about stuff like this... Oh, oops, I messed that up. So if it's just this, and then... Oh god. Please. So I'll record this first. So if it's just this on repeat... I messed it up. It's like, if I know they're gonna go for the IAD, I am already... Well, I messed up that spectacularly. But if I know they're going for the IAD... I'm sorry, I'm all... But yeah, if I know they're going for the IAD, I'm pressing that. Other things they can do... Did I not record this properly? What in the world? Please. I am messing up recordings. Okay. But so if it's stuff like this... Okay, the jab doesn't hit there. I am not demonstrating this well at all, I'm sorry. So it's... Like for Parasol, you have options like PBGC Pillar. Okay, that dead zones it actually, that's hilarious. If you do it a little bit later, that works. You can also just block it all. If you think it's coming, well, you need to be really quick with it, but if you think it's coming, a back jump light punch, like just a retreating button, a back air throw, also can work, but again, you have to be doing these options somewhat predictably. A back, like, jump light punch or jump light kick also shuts it down. Otherwise, you can hold it, do different things off of push block. If you don't push block it, it looks like you might just be able to jab it. If they don't get over your jab. And then dealing with it as Annie, it's like you have 2 HP out of like push block. That can kind of catch them. So it depends on exactly how much risk you want to put yourself at. That's just like this retreating button is pretty low risk. Doing something that's a lot more aggressive. That also whiffs, interesting. if you do it at specific times. It gives you bigger reward, but for more risk. Also, like, going forward with your air-to-air is more risk than going backwards with it, but sometimes you can't get a combo with a retreating button. And then again, also just, like, doing reversals. If you know they're moving forward, stuff like that. Those are kind of the ways to deal with her doing shenanigans in your face. It's kind of obnoxious, and a lot of it really depends on exactly what they choose to go for. But those are some examples. Not the art gallery. I was at 13, I think.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then again, so like if they're going for raw bypasses, if you block it, if you hit them before they touch the ground, usually if you want to be safe, just going for a jab does it. Oh, we're playing solos now. Okay. Lots of Val practice. Yeah. First, yep. Trying to protect the throw, understandable. Does this kill? I don't actually know how much damage this level 3 does, yeah. I forget it does the chunk of damage at the start. Okay. I'm gonna start speeding up some of these replays and looking for specific things. Patient, neutrals, whatever. So this is one of the things I was talking about. This is your, like, it's always going to be your turn. I'm pretty sure you can get a counter hit here if you're just jabbing. So if you block a bypass, this is something you're not wanting to push block. This is something you're going, ooh, piece of candy, and hitting them for doing this because they just walked up and gave you a gift. Yeah, back to neutral. Yeah, so okay, they are going for bypass to try and catch you out for things. They don't get a combo after it. You go for the bypass to catch them out of things. So comboing. Fortunate drop before we get to the mix. Back to dead cross neutral. Val mirrors, yep. Torpedo. Should we air dash into that? I'm not sure. I don't know if you want to be using air dash into jump heavy kick. If that's what I was saying. I'm not entirely sure. And in my head, I would want to just be like doing jump heavy kick with my jump arc and then having my air dash ability to cancel it. Yeah. Super jump and double jumping immediately. Like, I mean, being above people is really nice as well, but this is getting a bit ridiculous. But yeah, cross neutral. Good punish. Yep. Oh, you jabbed that time, so it seems like you know. And then you get caught out trying to get above them with a cross and they catch your toes. Did we try and tech a throw here? I was looking at the wrong inputs. Yeah, okay. We thought the throw was coming. Yeah, somewhat unfortunate push block timing. This is something that just it's also a forward-moving move, so it's not as much on you. Yeah, the more you play, the more you'll figure out when you like to be push blocking, and sometimes push blocking right before a certain normal kind of just ends up being pain. But you're getting there. You're just getting information. Yeah, so like these hits happen close enough together that they're not going to end up getting push block all that far, and so this is where you start thinking about, okay, they've stuck on me, they're not away from me, I might have a PBGC option here. And then that's where you start going into, do I want to do PBGC Super? Do I want to do PBGC Jab? Do I want to use my PBGC at all? But, not vitally important right now. Just food for thought. Playing neutral. Yeah. Hindsight is 20/20, but in general, yeah, it's kind of just fortunate. They get on in when you're zoning. We get strong. Oh! You gotta know not to burst that, and Boomer, you gotta know not to drop that, and this is silly.
Everyone has a weakness.
Player 2 wins.
Sorry, I'm out of lollipops.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's
I might only watch a couple more replays. Yeah. Similar to why I would say not going for shot, this is really close to be going for a dead cross. Hard dash, jump heavy punch. Skills. Okay, that was a mix. Mix again. I don't think the skills... That was closer than I expected. Like, this game is really not in your favor, but
Now we're ready to operate.
I feel like that level 3 is kind of just giving up. I don't know, it's... The Vel Supers without any DHCs are really awkward to be mashing as reversals because you don't follow-ups off of them. They can get you off of... Or they can get people off of you, but in that case I would rather you just use EKG rather than level 3 because you're spending 2 less bar. Like, the damage doesn't matter all that much if it's not going to kill, so I just hold that bar in the bank. Both of y'all gotta chill it out with the bypasses after air normals. It's like sometimes it can work, but bypass on block is death. So always keep that in mind when you're trying to do stuff like that. Interesting. So, yeah. So this is me talking about air bypasses. Where was the thing? As I talked about earlier, cross on block, obviously you also got push blocked, but cross, this is never something you want to be using on block. funnily enough, your only safe on block option is actually grounded L bypass if you're extending all the way into your specials. Ideally, you're stopping on your mediums for hit confirms. But yeah, ground cross in general is not something you see Val's use all that often for a lot of reasons. It's a pretty mediocre projectile. This is not the time and place to be doing it. They're way too close. Similarly to how Parasol doesn't want to be doing shot after they get push blocked here, people have ways around it that can get them in. We're seeing this here. They don't actually get the full hit, but projectile habits are really important in this game, and you can very easily get blown up for bad ones. But we'll keep going. Jab this, or catch them as they're falling with a button that'll hit on the ground. Yada yada yada. Bypass. I think I'll watch one more and then sum up my thoughts. I think I'm seeing a lot of the same things. I'll go check to make sure the end games... Okay, it was also low left. I'll just watch this one because I couldn't remember exactly which one I stopped on, but I know it wasn't in the 20s. So I'll watch this. And then I'll do my like final thoughts down sort of thing. But I don't think I end up having all that much to say. I definitely talked about a couple like more minor things throughout a lot of the replays, and so I'm honestly just gonna direct you back to kind of go watch again and take note of a lot of the small things I said. But there are definitely a couple of points I'll bring up at the end as well. What happened there? What? Can I even go back? Okay, I can't go back to the previous. So we got the hit. We're in. What was the next? Oh, there was no next. We return to neutral. We just got hit by the same segment. Okay, understood. Hive mind. Once again, talking about the projectiles. Not really something you want to be doing. I can understand if they're also misinputs for grounded things. Good burst bait. Gotta do a bit more, though. We went through the work of getting the burst bait and then we didn't get rewarded for it. It's unfortunate. Good air. Yeah, throwing crosses close to your opponent is always going to be a pretty big gamble. Usually you want to be like 3/4 swinging, just being a nuisance. Valentine is more similar to Robo in how they zone, and the fact that they just have such good mobility options that they're always going to try and be in the best place possible for them before they commit to the zoning. And so Val just is a gnat and positions herself in a place she knows you can't reach, and then makes it even more awkward to approach her and checks your approach with crosses and then air dash buttons afterwards, etc. At least that's how I understand Val gameplay and how I recommend it be played. Obviously, there are alternative ideas. Again, you have players like BBP or Grey Arsenic who will be much more aggressive in how they approach yada yada yada. Well, there's always a spectrum for that sort of stuff, but in general, for you, Warrior, there's a couple things. The major things I think are getting a little more familiar with the game. I mean, I think that's first and foremost. Just getting more used to your combos, playing more, understanding what some of your confirms are off of some of the stranger hits in the game. That comes with time. Just keep playing, enjoy the game. It'll happen. Other than that, it was trying to push block a little bit earlier at times. Most of the time you were good about it, but sometimes you were just sitting there holding a couple more things than you needed to and not actually push blocking anything while they were just swinging in your face. Yeah, I feel like those were the two major things, because I feel like I saw you spend meter in questionable ways, but it wouldn't have been anywhere near as questionable if you had the confirms off of air scalpels, all that sort of thing. Yeah, and again, like I said, oh, the one other major thing I almost forgot. Try and not autopilot with projectiles. Try and be thinking about whether it's actually a safe range to commit to them or not. Because we saw it on your Parasol a little bit, and then towards the end we saw it on the Valentine too, where you were a little bit too close to be going for some of the things you were, and you started getting hit more and more for it. So try not to autopilot into projectiles, try to autopilot to be in the best place possible, and then get your projectiles out, if that makes any sense. And that's hard, and it changes from matchup to matchup. Everyone's got different tools, and it changes from assist to assist. So, like, if you're dealing with A-Train, obviously it's going to be a lot harder for you as a Valentine to stay in your ideal range, because A-Train just kind of scoops you out of the sky. But yeah. For both of y'all as Valentines, I think I've given the speech a couple times before, so I'm going to keep it brief. I'd recommend holding on to your mobility a little bit more. I think more often than not, especially like at longer ranges, at full screen ranges, doing super jump, double jump to just get as high as possible and then throw a cross is fine. But once you start getting in the mid ranges, I would recommend not using your double jump anywhere near as instantly as y'all were. Because again, having that extra air mobility makes it easier to put yourself in the best position possible. Whether that's for throwing another projectile or for punishing them or baiting them to press a button that they think will hit you and then you get out of the way. And so that also goes to how often I thought I saw both of y'all end up doing air dash jump heavy kick. Instead of doing that, do the jump heavy kick before the air dash so you can then air dash cancel the jump heavy kick either on hit or on whiff, and you go into another option. So it's like you can do jump heavy kick, and if they avoided it, you can then air dash forward and jump medium punch, and then they have to deal with that pressure. Or you can air dash backwards and just get yourself at a safe distance to reset neutral, resume again. Mobility is so very strong in this game, and there's a reason why Peacock, Brobo, and Fortune are some of the strongest characters in the game. They also have some of the strongest mobility options in the game. They also have other really strong tools, but having double jumps, air dashes, having like that whole array of tools gives you a lot of options. So don't immediately cross one out by like burning your double jump as soon as possible. Keep yourself flexible, keep yourself unpredictable. It's a great way to be using your stuff. For Dasher, I think my biggest gripe for the Valentine was, I don't know whether to call it over-aggression or just not ideal aggression. I don't want to call it stupid aggression, but I felt like the ways you were trying, or sometimes the ways you were trying to open people up were very predictable and somewhat punishable. And so I noted you would, at mid-ranges very often on the ground, if they were also grounded, just go for an IAD button. It's not always the worst option, but it means they know more often than not you're just going to go overhead, and so that's what they're blocking. And sometimes they'll anti-air you for doing this as often as you're going for it. I'm also lumping in there the raw bypasses, the air bypasses, because you probably could have gotten punished more often for them than you ended up actually getting punished for them. So there are definitely people who will shoot you a bit more for doing stuff like that. There are ways to keep them safe with like assists and other things. I know a lot of the games we ended up watching were solo, so you don't get to show that necessarily, but always keep that in mind when you're committing to options like that. Alternatives for the mid-range thing are like up forward into jump heavy kick and choke out space, and then react afterwards to what's going on. You can also, again, just dash up and threaten low throw, because your dash is quite fast. You have a long-reaching low, and sometimes people just don't tech. They get caught in the headlights and see a character running at them, and they're going, oh crap, I need to block, I'm down backing. And then you just keep running and throw them. And that hits me more often than I want to admit. So, you've got options. Yeah. Outside of that, I think those were the biggest points. There were definitely smaller points scattered throughout all of the review, but I think that's it for me. If y'all, again, I'm sure y'all know this. I've said it thousands of times. Well, exaggeration, but you get the point. Shoot me questions if need be. I'll gladly address anything. Appreciate y'all for continuously shooting replays in. I genuinely really hope this helps. Yeah, it's a tool for y'all to use, and I'm glad you're using it. So I hope I'm spending my time wisely and this is beneficial to y'all.